All right, well, welcome back to Redneck Rantings. It is Thursday, March the 21st of 2019, if I'm reading the calendar correctly. The oven is preheating for the lasagna. The cat is ignoring what I told him not to do because he's a cat. And we've got a brand new rant. Okay, now, I was going to go off about the Electoral College and the Democrats' attempt to eliminate it in this evening's rant. However, something a little bit juicier came up in my feed this morning, and I really had to talk about it. For those of you who don't know, there is I guess you could say, a political commentator masquerading as a comedian by the name of Jeffries. Jim is, well, he was kind of a shock comic, used to talk a lot about his experience as a drug taker, various things that happened to him as a child, like the time his mom broke both of his brother's legs, etc. And once upon a time, I found him fairly amusing. I found him to be a fairly funny guy. And then he realized, hey, wait a minute, there's a lot more money in left-wing political pontification than there is in just doing jokes. And so he shifted his act to all of the various left-wing talking points, Trump is Hitler, guns are evil, blah, 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 etc., open borders, yaketa schmacketa. And he parlayed this into a fairly lucrative paycheck and his own show on, I believe it's Comedy Central. And you know what? I wouldn't even be talking about him if that's where it stopped. Frankly, good for you, okay? You're a sellout and a hack and you're not funny anymore, but hey, you found a way to get paid, you found a way to get rich. I personally think it's greasy how you did it, but good for you. The reason Jim is the subject of today's rant is because Jim has also been an extremely vociferous pro-Islamist. He's been one of these people who has been banging on and on and on about open borders and how if you criticize Islam, you are a racist and a bigot and a blah 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 blah. And just the usual shtick along those lines. If you've heard it once, you've heard it 1,000 times. And then he got busted making some incredibly inappropriate remarks about Islam on a hidden camera. And I'm really enjoying watching it blow up in his face, okay? It really is reminiscent of the Warner Brothers cartoon where Bugs Bunny curves Elmer Fudd's shotgun barrel back on himself, and Elmer pulls the trigger and he gets both barrels in the face. And I'm loving it. What happened is Jim decided to interview a YouTuber by the name of Avi Yemeni, who is also an Australian like Jim is. And the two of them would be very hard-pressed to be more politically opposite. Jim is very, very liberal. Avi is very, very conservative. Jim is very pro-Islam. Avi is less of a fan. Let's put it that way. He's also in favor of legal but controlled immigration, much more selective in who they allow into Australia. Jim is literally, hey, why can't people just live wherever they want? Why not just do away with borders, period? Well, Jim invited Avi Yemeni to be interviewed for his show. And Avi hid a camera in the room before the interview started and before Jim arrived because he knew that Jim was going to turn this into a gotcha. And he wanted his own record of what actually went down, so when it invariably got cut up and edited to reflect Jim Jeffries' narrative, he had the actual uncut version of what really went down. And good for him being smart like that. And what actually went down is that Mr. Pro-Islamist, Mr. If you criticize Islam, you are a racist. If you don't want unrestricted Islamic immigration into your country, you're a bigot and an Islamophobe, etc., etc., was caught on camera, and I am not making this up, referring to wearing a burqa as, quote, stupid and demeaning. And my personal favorite, and I mean this in terms of how badly he stepped on it, making jokes about Muslim children getting eaten by dingoes, okay? I'm going to include a link to Avi's video in the description of this video, and I really encourage you to watch it. Understand, this is not me trying to ride Avi's coattails. I'm a big fan of Avi. Full disclosure, I respect the hell out of him. I think he's doing great work, but I'm not trying to kind of drift along in his shadow and bump my numbers up by associating myself with him, okay? He's the original source for this. That's why I'm providing the link, okay? Now, in this back and forth between Avi and Jim, among other things that you're not supposed to do, according to the Muslim faith, draws a picture of the Prophet Muhammad and says, there he is, he looks like a wobbly ghost. Okay, pretty sure you're not supposed to say those things about the Prophet Muhammad, not if you want to keep in the good books of most Muslims. Then he, like I said, makes these remarks about wearing a burqa, being stupid and demeaning, etc. And then they start talking back and forth about, well, is cancer dangerous? Is Islam dangerous? What about dingoes? And they get onto this thing about how that lady in Australia claimed that a dingo ate her baby. And Jim says, and I quote, well, okay, I'm going to paraphrase this because I'm not getting it word for word. Yeah, if a dingo ate a Muslim baby, it would probably vomit. Wow. Folks, I make no secret of the fact that I am not a fan of the Muslim faith. However, in my time not being part of the Rah-Rah Muhammad squad, I have never, and I would never, make a joke about a Muslim child being devoured by a wild dog, okay? Avi, to his credit, stepped up and said, hey man, that's too fucking far. There's a line. You don't joke about dead kids. And he's right. I don't care how you feel about a religion. I don't care if it's the Christians, the Jews, my own faith. You want to shit on a religion, that's fine, okay? Every single religion in the world is open to criticism. My own faith, as much as any. What you don't do is you don't joke about dead children. You don't joke about kids getting eaten alive by wild dogs. And you double damn sure don't do it if you have made yourself a name and a pretty substantial goddamn fortune by talking about how people who say less bad things than that about a religion are bigots and assholes and etc., 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 okay? This is exactly what I've been talking about in terms of Hollywood hypocrisy. And I'm not going to tear off on that because we're already going into 10 minutes. But this shows Jeffries' character. Okay, there's an old saying, character is what you do when you think no one's watching. And we have seen what Jim Jeffries' character is. The guy is a hypocrite. He is a scumbag. He is a two-faced louse who, on the one hand, says, if you are opposed to Islam, if you have criticisms of the Muslim faith, then you are perforce a bigot. And then he turns around and says that wearing a burqa, the traditional Muslim garment for women, is stupid and demeaning, and proceeds to make jokes about Muslim children getting murdered by wild animals. Okay, you can't have it both ways, Jim. Little thing called moral consistency. I realize that being a celebrity, that may not exactly be your strong suit, but how about a little common goddamn sense, okay? You can't stand there holding a PETA sign unironically while eating KFC. It's the same goddamn thing, Jimmy boy. And I'm really looking forward to watching this implode on him. I am, excuse me, I have to admit, I have a shodden boner you could bludgeon a Kodiak bear to death with over this, all right? Because I love it when people get shown up for the two-faced, double-talking weasel word slime that they are. I love it when the glaring light of the truth gets shown on the inconsistencies between someone's public persona and their private persona. Me, I am a profane, socially inept jerk. Okay? My best friends will say that I am the kind of guy that you have to explain in advance and apologize for in advance. But I'm that way in public, I'm that way in private, I'm that way everywhere. I haven't parlayed any version of myself into a multi-million-dollar income, and then when I think nobody's watching, I take the mask off and I'm a completely different person. Okay, that's what Jeffries did. And it's against my religion. I take my religious principles very, very seriously. It is against my religion to hope that he loses everything. So I'm making it clear. I don't hope that he loses everything. But my faith is somewhat more vague on whether or not you are allowed to enjoy it if you happen to watch somebody shit the bed and then be forced to lay in it for a few days. Okay? So in summation, Jim Jeffries, hardcore lefty, Islamist cheerleading comedian, gets caught on camera joking about wild dogs murdering Muslim children. And it's now all over the interwebs. And it's kind of blowing up on Mr. Jeffries' what do you call, on his Facebook page too, and I'm delighting in that too. So that's about all I've got to say on the subject. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, validate my antisocial, misanthropic, meandering existence with your validation. Validate my existence with your validation, with your patronage. And I will see you next time when I will no doubt have more to say about something. Have fun. Bye-bye. Peace out.